Hello everyone, it's Sandra and welcome to today's video. Finally time to do a brush video. I've done a favorite makeup brush video in the past, but it's been a few years. There have been some changes. It's well overdue that I film an updated favorite makeup brush video. And I'm excited to share with you all the makeup brushes that are my top, most used, most loved. So let's start with base. If I had to just choose one foundation brush, although I really love using a beauty blender, that's kind of like my go-to tool when it comes to applying my foundation and concealer. Sometimes I'm in the mood for brushes, and hands down my favorite foundation brush is the Zoeva 102. This is just, it's perfect. I bought this many years ago. This is probably 6 or 7 years old now, and I bought it because I saw Lisa Eldridge use it, and you know I'm a Lisa Eldridge fangirl, so I love it. It's really the perfect balance of density. I love the shape. I like the fact that it's rounded. I went through phases, you know, sometimes I preferred flat tops, but overall, one that's slightly more rounded, I feel like I get more control and a better buffing and stippling action with it. So this is my favorite. I just really love it. It's great. For concealer, my favorite concealer brush is still the Sephora airbrush. This is the Sephora number 57 airbrush concealer brush, and this is again also 6 or 7 or even 8 years old, and I love it. I love this brush for, especially with something like the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer. I just love it for concealing just areas where I need a little bit more help. If I'm using a really nice lightweight, light coverage foundation, but I just have some areas that need a little bit more coverage, I always go to this brush, and it's so easy to buff it on any areas. It does such a nice job. Also does a really nice job at blending out under eye concealer. So this is a favorite. It's a favorite of many, and it's still a favorite for me. There has been a new entry in the concealer category, but this brush is actually a brush that I also use for eyeshadow. I really need to get a second one and just keep one for concealing and then one for eyeshadow. But this this tiny pencil brush, this is the Refer 23 brush. This is amazing for pinpoint concealing if I have any active breakouts. This with the Laura Mercier Secret Camouflage Concealer this is the best when it comes to concealing, you know, red little bumps on the skin, because I can really be precise and apply the high coverage concealer just on that area, and then this is still quite soft, and I can use the tip of it to just really buff out the edges and get a really nice seamless blend. So if I'm really taking my time and I want to do that beautiful pinpoint concealing method, again, Lisa Eldridge has a video on how to do the, you know, pinpoint concealing. This brush is amazing for that. So this is what I go for if I have any active breakouts that need some special attention. So this is really great. Now, when it comes to powdering the face, I really love the Wayne Goss airbrush. This is my favorite brush when it comes to setting my under eye area. It is so incredibly soft. It is like the paw of the cutest, furriest little creature you can imagine. It's just like this gentle paw. And I love using this with my Pat McGrath under eye powder, and it's just my favorite brush for setting that area. Sometimes I also use this with a loose powder if I just want a very light, precise powder application. If I'm just looking to powder my T-zone or around my nose, this also is really great with a loose powder to set those areas. I also really love this Hakuhodo brush. This is the 5521 brush. This is a really multi-purpose brush because it works great for setting the under eye area. It also works great for just setting the T-zone. It also works really well for powder highlight. It's quite a multi-purpose brush. It's really soft, and it's another one of my go-tos for just precision powdering. If I ever want to just do an all-over light powder application, doesn't happen often, but sometimes I am in the mood for that. I really like this large NARS powder brush. It's very soft. The shape is really nice. It is quite tapered. You know, the it's fat in the middle and then it just kind of tapers down, but it stays really, really soft. And if I ever just want a veil of loose powder, I just kind of use this. Sometimes I use this clean just at the very end of my makeup. If I just want some help just buffing and blending everything together, I can just use this all over and I feel like it does a nice job. So this is also a really great powder brush. All right, now moving on to cheeks. For powder bronzer, these two are my favorites. My long-term favorite is this Zoeva 101. I've used this again for over 5 years and it's just a really great bronzer brush. I do like to have a lot, like I like my bronzer, so I don't need to be very precise with my bronzer application. So this is one of my OG favorites, works with any type of powder bronzer, whether it's matte or shimmery. It's just really, really great. And then a recent discovery and addition to my favorites has been this Refer 22 bronzer brush. This is a lot larger and it's also more dense. It's also a little bit softer. I really love the shape of this, and if I have a powder bronzer that isn't super pigmented and I just want to kind of get the best application possible, I really like this brush with it. I feel like because it is more dense, it picks up more product, but it's also bigger and it's really nice and rounded, so it blends out that product really, really beautifully. When it comes to cream or liquid bronzer, my favorite brush to blend that out, also to blend out any cream contour, is this Real Techniques brush. This brush is ancient. I remember getting this in 2012 and it was part of a set, so I'm not sure if you still have to buy a set in order to get this brush or whether they sell it separately now, but this is the buffing brush by Real Techniques. This is such an incredible brush for buffing out cream bronzer, liquid bronzer, contour. I just love it. It's my go-to. When it comes to powder contour, like my favorite powder contour is the Charlotte Tilbury one, the one in the Filmstar Bronze and Glow palette. And this brush gives me the perfect contour application. This is the Refer 19 brush. I also have very prominent cheekbones, so I don't need to have like smaller cheek tools. I can get away with using larger brushes for these purposes, but if you have a smaller face or if you want to do more precise sculpting, Refer do make a smaller version of this brush. But this is just my favorite. Again, it's super, super soft. I love the shape. It's kind of, I guess it's like a bigger version of the Hakuhodo brush that I showed. Because it's bigger, I just feel like it gives me a more diffuse application, which is what I really like. So this is my favorite powder contour brush. Powder highlight, the Hakuhodo 5521 brush again. Like I mentioned before, it's great. I don't use powder highlight often, but when I do, that brush does the job. When it comes to cream highlight, I really like the Real Techniques. So this is the setting brush. I love it. I would just, dip it into the cream highlight and then swirl it in the palm of my hand to really work the product into the brush, and then use little tapping or swirling motions to get the highlighter on my cheeks. I have 3 blush brush favorites depending on the mood that I'm in, depending on the product that I'm using. Starting with my oldest favorite, this is the NARS Yachio brush. It's definitely a brush that got better with age. Initially, in the first couple years that I had it, it shed a bit. It wasn't that soft, but it's still pretty soft. But now it's just absolutely perfect. No matter the type of powder blush I'm using, whether it's super pigmented, super sheer, whether it's shimmery or not, this just does the most beautiful job at applying it. The shape is perfect. I can really just get a lot of control with it, and it just does such a nice job at applying the blush, especially if I'm dealing with a more pigmented blush. This brush always gets the job done. For cream blush, and sometimes I also use this for cream or liquid bronzer. It's a great multitasker for cream cheek products. Also works great for cream highlight. The e.l.f. Now on here it says Airbrush Stipple, but it has recently been renamed, so it's not called that anymore. But they definitely still have it. This is just so good. It's such a beautiful brush. It is very affordable and it does the job. It's such a great cream cheek brush. And again, in a pinch, I can use this for cream highlight, bronzer, or blush. And I actually have 3 of these because I love it so much. I'm very devoted to it, and it's nice to have one available, clean and ready to go at all times. So if you haven't tried this yet and you are into cream cheek products, I definitely think that you would like this. Then the last blush brush is the Rephr 04. This is an angled blush brush. I always like to have an angled blush brush in my collection as well. Again, it's very versatile. This also works really well with, you know, bronzer or contour if I want a more precise application. And the purpose that I really love this brush for is applying cream blush on a face that has been already powdered, which is like a very niche reason, a very niche purpose for it. But it worked, like I said, it works really well on powder, blush. It works really well on cream blush altogether, but especially, it works especially well for applying cream blush on a face that's already powdered. If I want to just, I don't know, if my skin is really oily and I set it all and then maybe I forgot to put on blush and I want to use a cream blush, this works really well on top. I just kind of dab it into the pan of the cream blush and then just stipple it onto my cheeks, and I find that it never disturbs the makeup underneath. The shape is perfect, the size is perfect, and it's just perfectly rounded as well. It just gives a really nice, seamless blend. So I really, really like this. Initially, I was only using it for powder products, and then I had seen Hung Van Gogh use this with a cream blush, and then that just kind of had a light bulb moment. I decided to try for cream blush as well, and it works really great. So another blush brush favorite. And finally, let's talk eyeshadow brushes. I have quite a few that I've collected over the years, but I definitely have my favorites. I can't have a favorite brush video without talking about this brush. And you know what this is, because if you're in the beauty community, or if you've been consuming beauty content for many years, you will know that the MAC 217 brush is the best. I love it so much. This is the first product that I bought because of the online beauty community. We're talking 2007, 2008. I think I bought this because of Faffinette X3 or maybe Encore Makeup, like those old school beauty YouTube days. This was my first eyeshadow brush that I ever bought. Before that, I remember I would just use the little applicators that would come in the Maybelline eyeshadows that I would get from the drugstore, my little Clinique eyeshadows. So this is just such a special brush to me, and this is the brush. I mean, this is very, over 10 years old. It's still in great shape. I have since purchased another one. This is also old, but I do have two MAC 217 brushes, and I love them so much. It's just such a versatile brush shape. A very similar brush, like if you are looking to get this shape, another one maybe, or maybe you had a 217 that you lost it, or maybe you're just getting started or you want to revamp your brush collection. There are so many brands that do similar shapes now. The one that I have here is the Zoeva 227. This is actually what I used today, just to do my one and done eyeshadow. I'm just wearing Chantecaille Sylvie eyeshadow with this brush. That's all I have on my eyelids today. So this and the Rephr 01 is also very similar. So similar shapes, they do the same thing. It's certainly the one and done brush for me. Does it all. It does it all really quickly. It can apply color and blend it out beautifully. And it's my go-to, hence me having like 4 versions of the same brush. When it comes to more like detailed work, I've definitely come to appreciate smaller brushes, especially for my eye shape, and I really, really love Rephr for that. Like I mentioned, the 23 brush, the small little pencil brush, is excellent. Really excellent for pinpoint concealing, and also really excellent for blending out, smoking out any eyeliner. It's so, so great. The slightly larger version of that is the Rephr 03. Again, so, so great, especially for smoking out the lash line. It's really, really soft as well, and never feels like it's tugging or scratching at my the delicate skin around the eyes. So I love these brushes so much. I also really like the small crease brushes from Rephr. They have a little set that I think if you have smaller eyes, if you have deep set eyes, if you have hooded eyes, the hooded eyeshadow brush kit from Rephr is amazing. These two brushes, number 13 and number 14. This is number 13, it's more rounded. Number 14 is a little bit longer, a little bit more tapered, and not quite as dense, but these two are just excellent for any crease work, blending out the crease, applying eyeshadow to the crease. So good, and they're very soft, and they do a really good job getting in there. For me, anytime I'm doing something even remotely complex on the eyes, small brushes do the best job. It might be more time consuming, but the end result is always so much more polished. I'm not sure if you guys follow Cassie Thorpe. She's a luxury fashion YouTuber, but she has this phrase, you know, she likes small purses, and she always talks about tiny bag energy. I feel like this is tiny brush energy, and it's great. I'm all about it. Two other tiny brushes that I love for around the eye area. This is the Hakuhodo. Both of these are by Hakuhodo, and it drives me crazy that these don't have the numbers on them, but I will write them on the screen. This I have just mentioned in my favorites video, but this is such a beautiful flat eyeshadow brush, excellent for just adding a little gleam. You know, with any of my glitter toppers, I just love using this for really emphasizing, like if I'm doing like a little spotlight effect on the eye, or for the inner corner, this brush is excellent. And then I also really love this blending brush from Hakuhodo. I love this if I really want a smoky under eye. This does a really good job at diffusing the shadow. It's so nice. This is essentially a smaller version of the Rephr 14, and this just does such a nice job at applying, or not even applying, because if I'm applying eyeshadow there, I will use the Rephr pencil brush to put down the pigment, but if I want to diffuse it even further, this is my go-to brush for that. Again, super soft. All of these are really soft and not scratchy. I also like a big fluffy crease brush. This I usually keep clean, and I just use this at the very end of the eyeshadow application to just really soften any edges. And my go-to is the Zoeva 221 Luxe Soft Crease Brush. For years I had a MAC 224 for this purpose, but over the years mine just started falling apart. Moved on to the Zoeva 221, and this is a lot softer than the MAC 224, and it just does such a nice job. Just use it clean at the very end of the look to buff everything in, and it's really nice. I think this is the newest brush. This was my latest brush purchase. I bought this towards the end of last year, and it's the Rephr 21 brush. I think I bought this during their Black Friday sale, but it's a really great brush. It's a flat synthetic eyeshadow brush, and it's so great for applying cream eyeshadow, just applying it on the lid. Quite soft, and it's really nicely tapered, and I can actually blend with it as well. It's beautiful. It just gives me the right impact, the perfect cream eyeshadow application. So usually I will use this to set down the cream shadow, and then I will just go in with like my MAC 217 to buff it out, and then I continue with my look, or I just leave it at that. So this is a really great cream eyeshadow brush. And finally, for eyebrows, I have two eyebrow brushes. I use them on an almost daily basis depending on my brow routine, but if I'm using my Anastasia brow freeze, this e.l.f. spoolie is amazing, and it comes straight, and I just bent it because I feel like having it angled gives me more control and it gives a nicer application. Bought this from Target. And my other go-to brow brush is from Giorgio Armani. This is a double-ended brow brush. One end has a brush, like an angled brush. This is great for applying powder to the eyebrows to give them a bit more volume. I usually use this if I'm just doing like I just want to fill in my brows quickly. I don't feel like faffing around with pencils or pens. I just dip this in a dark brown eyeshadow and I fill in my brows. And then on the other end is just a nice spoolie that I can use to brush through my brows, and it's just great. The only reason I bought the Giorgio Armani one is because it was heavily reduced in one of their flash sales, and at the time I needed a new brow brush, so I added it to my cart, but a lot of brands do this style of brush. And that concludes my brush video. These are all my current favorite go-to brushes. If I had to start all over and repurchase any brushes, these are the shapes and these are the styles that I would go for first. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you have found it helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.